Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Nivarti Jairam, and today, as part of the Seekers, the Book Readers Club, we have Balwinder who is joining us from US, and we are looking to talk about her learnings and how she applied those learnings from the book Never Enough, a Navy SEAL commander on living a life of excellence, agility, and meaning. So, welcome, Balwinder. Maybe you can give a quick introduction about yourself.
Yeah, sure, Nivarti. Thanks for first of all giving me this opportunity. I know, I'm glad that I'll be having another 1 hour of interesting discussion and a lot more to learn every time we discuss anything or share a topic. A little bit about myself. I had been working in a service company for now more than 15 years, and then have played different roles from product management into program management, and right now I'm on my AWS journey. So that's about my corporate life. But yeah, personally also I've worked globally. I started my career in India and then came here in US and never looked back. So that's a little bit about myself.
Wonderful. So, as we progress, just a quick introduction about Digital Agility Institute as well. Uh, okay, so for those who are joining us live, please type in your comments and we'll be happy to say hi. And if you have any questions on the way, we can try and integrate those into our discussion. So, Balwinder, we have been connected quite a while now. I think probably 5 4 5 months
Yes.
that we have been collaborating on the Scrum Master program. So, why this book? And I see this this title as well in your LinkedIn profile heading. So,
Yes.
quite curious to understand why this book resonates with you so much.
Yes, yes, sure, sure. So a little bit background on that, Nivarti. So I work for Cognizant, and when I joined the company, we were only like about 10,000 people, and so it was a small organization, not a lot of global offices, and now it's a company of 300,000 people, right, and global presence. So at that time, when you are a small company, there are couple leaders which you can count on your fingers, and you get very motivated by them, right? So our former CEO Frank D'Souza, he's the one who introduced this book to a couple of us who are in connect with him on LinkedIn. And so that was the first thing which was like aha moment. Okay, Frank is recommending. The second thing, when I looked a little bit more about the author and got to know about him, he's not only a ex Navy SEAL, he also is a White House policy maker. So that combo you don't see a lot. And then on top of that, he's having a very successful corporate career as well. And so that kind of started to link a little bit more, and I was very excited to know how he's applying what he has learned as part of his training as a defense personnel to his corporate life. And then the third one, which is most important, my dad back home is also a ex defense personnel, and so I have seen how he would go away from home and be kind of, he'll miss all the milestones. And when I was reading the book, or when I got the summary of the book, I was very interested in knowing Mike's journey. And so all of those reasons, and I couldn't just stop myself in getting a head start on that.
Wonderful. I think it's all a defense community here, I guess. So uh, that's great to know. And when you talk about this book so much, right? So what things resonate to you from this book, and what stories can you relate to from the book?
Right. So as you mentioned, right, I have put in my heading, what Mike said, that be a leader and a follower, and also at the same time know when to be which, right? It's a very powerful message, right? We all, when we start our careers, we start kind of getting mentorship, getting to know the environment and growing in that. But at some point of time, you become a leader, right? You start to lead a team, and then that conflict comes of, okay, what kind of authority do you have? Are you a leader who, based on your experience, always tells your team to kind of tell them how to go about it, so that they are successful in what they do, right? But at the same time, I think there's a lot now, especially with the new generation, and I'm learning every day from my daughter, who's a high schooler, that we need to also be a follower at the same time, because you never know, they may have less experience, they may be just getting to know things, but then at the same time, there's lots to learn from them. So that message actually clicked very deeply with me, and I was like, okay, look for opportunities always to learn from others, and especially from your team, so that you build trust from there on. So I think that was the powerful message, especially for me.
Okay, wonderful. So, what is your learning means when you say it's a great thing to hear, right? So, when to be a follower, when to be a leader, because you may reach any stage, but you would still be uh, there would still be something to learn from your peers, not just your bosses or upwards in the hierarchy, with the people you work with as well, right? So how what instances can you think of which can probably move you from a position of a leader to a follower from
Right.
your experience?
Yeah. So again, as Mike said in his book, and I would want to relate it, like how he put it. This book has like 3 different chapters, right? Main chapters, topics, and he says, okay, how can you be, think about never excellent enough. Then he moves on to saying, okay, never agile enough, right? And then never meaningful enough. So I think your question more relates to how can you be not agile enough, right? How can you learn from your daily instances? And I will want to quote, what we discussed, you and I, yesterday, right, about my daughter's study pattern, right? And how as a parent you would think that based on your experience, you have that guiding force for your kids to either follow through what learning strategies work for yourself, or you are kind of making sure they are successful based on the experience you have gained. So you don't actually want them to fail and then learn, and so you want to that expedite that experience for them. But what I learned from you yesterday, right, in our conversation, was like, rather than asking them, hey, I'm seeing this pattern and it doesn't seem like it's sustainable, how to quote this question as like, are you comfortable doing this long enough, and will this strategy work for you, right? So kind of putting the ball in their court, and then letting them figure things out. So I think I just wanted to, it just stuck in my mind based on our discussion yesterday, and so that's a great segue, right? How to be a leader, but then how to be a follower, right? Maybe there is something for us to learn from them, right? So
Yeah, great that you brought that point up, right? So I, even from my experience as well, so when you there are many things probably we subconsciously or unconsciously as parents, more out of our genuine concern, right, to see our kids succeeding, probably we tend to influence or even judge them
right,
based on what happened to us
right,
and what experiences we have throughout our upbringing or even our careers as well. And then, and many times possibly it may be the right thing for them, you never know,
right,
right? So, instead of putting that as a judgment out,
Right.
Can we put that as an observation and taking it to workplace again, right? You are never agile enough. It can apply even at our workplaces as well. When we
Mm-hmm.
go back to our workplace, when we see somebody doing something in a certain way, which we have tried and we have failed, we'll think they will also fail.
Correct.
We might have failed for hundreds of other reasons, or we might have not done it in the right perspective, or the environment where we were doing it that way may not be conducive enough.
Right.
Then in that sense, is it good to share your experience and then let them figure out whether it really matters to them, or they need to be conscious about certain things
Right.
that you have gone through and you have experienced,
Right.
rather than putting it out as a direction.
Correct.
Say, no, don't do it this way, otherwise you will fail.
Right.
Right? So, what I fail on, or the way I fail, may not be necessary that the other person will fail. Right? So, they
Right.
may succeed because they have the ingredients required, or
Yeah.
competencies required, or even that's their way of doing, and they have mastered it doing it that way,
Yep.
and they would probably be definitely successful. And there you can be more of a follower to say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how is this person doing something which I failed in the same way and succeeding,
Mm-hmm.
right? What then as a competency or a skill that I can learn
Right.
by looking at them doing the same thing in the same way
Mm-hmm.
and probably succeeding where I failed.
Right, right, right. And on that note, right, Nivarti, there's another thought which is coming, right? And he touched upon, the author, Mike touched upon it. And he says, okay, how do we gain authority, right? When we say we gain authority, does it come naturally to us based on our experience? Or can we gain authority by giving it away, right? So what can you give to get, but not as a natural form of being, right? That, hey, I have this experience, and so hence, I can make the team successful, I can make my surroundings better. But how to give it away so that you have space. And going back to your book, Unlearning, right? How can we unlearn and then make space to learn something new? So I was able to connect the dots from your book to what he's saying to what actually happens in our surroundings as well.
Absolutely. I think another point that comes up is, demanding respect or demanding authority versus commanding authority, especially in defense parlance. You command authority, which means that it's not coming by virtue of your position, it's more by virtue of how you exhibit your leadership and concern for the people, and
Yeah.
the way you lead them, right, gives
Right.
you that sense of command, that people who are more inclined to respect you, are more inclined to look up to you with the experience you bring in, the kind of leadership you showcase.
Right.
And I think I also told about this in some other discussions as well, right? Leadership is not, at least for me, about skills.
Mhm.
Leadership is about behaviors.
Right.
What behaviors you exhibit in day-to-day life for your teams, for the people you work with, right? So
Right.
from that point of view, I think it really makes sense what you are saying, right? And then from, you touched upon never agile enough,
Right.
and where do you relate this never excellent enough to?
Right. So never excellent enough. I would again start with what the author is trying to portray based on his experience. And he says, being a Navy SEAL, you sometimes have to make hard choices, right? And he gave an example when he was posted in Afghanistan and he was leading a team, and they surrounded a house, and then there was a probability of something wrong happening. And so they had to keep a watch on everybody who was exiting the house and kind of making a split decision of whether this person is a civilian or otherwise, right? And so how to, not knowing who that person is or not knowing the surroundings of who could be inside, how would you decide based on their body language, based on your experience, or what the expressions are of those people, and take the shot, right? And so he kind of said how to make hard decisions and then kind of take responsibility. And then, in his experience, it was a life and death experience. But if we relate it to our corporate life, sometimes we get overworked with the decisions we take. And then, that fearfulness comes that, oh, am I going to will my gut feeling stay with me? And then will I be successful? Or, do I have the leeway to kind of just take the shot? And then if we fail, then we have learned, right? So, making hard choices and always, exploring your potential, always moving forward was another thing which stuck in my mind. And, every time I have to make a decision, I say, okay, is it life and death situation? Yes or no? Can I reverse it to some extent? Probably yes. And then kind of going with that, and then getting a consensus from the team as well. So that was another, like, how can you be excellent? You have to make a decision, and sometimes you rely on others, sometimes you rely on your gut feeling.
Great. And that's what they say, right? Where excellence is a journey again. So the more you continue to do that, I think the more excellent you become, or the more you will excel. So that's another wonderful point. And lastly, coming to the next one, which again, never meaningful enough.
Yes.
What does that resonate for you?
Yeah, so he split Mike split it very nicely in like 3 different layers. And he says that how to find a meaning and purpose to your life. And it looks like a very cliche term, right? Because we as humans, right, everybody is exploring their own purpose, and what meaning do they bring to the world. But he says, okay, maybe think about what life brings for you and what is the purpose at individual level. Then you move a little ahead and you say, okay, what is the meaning of certain decisions for my team? And then you move, and I'm giving like corporate world examples, and then you move and then you say, okay, what the decisions I make, and then in turn my team makes, impacts the decisions of my organization, right? So he split it into 3 layers. And one of the things, again, it stuck with me was, he said, meaning in the bonds we build with others, right? Again, the trust equation we talked about in our programs, right? So how will the team come along as a team? When you build trust, right? And so you are open and you are courageous in giving that feedback. So meaning in the bonds we build with the others, and then everything else kind of falls in place.
Brilliant. I think that's another great point. So when you say meaning, what you are referring to is the circle of influence and impact, right? So as you get more, build more trust within the group of people, the team you are working with, and then how that influence can enhance the boundaries, the trust levels together you are building with the team can then enhance your circle of influence to beyond the team. And then from then on, how it can extrapolate to organization level as well.
Right.
So that's another interesting point. And overall, when you think about these learnings that you are talking about, right, how are you applying these to your personal or professional life? Because a lot of times we hear people, yes, this is what I learned, but more than learning is the application. So how are you applying this, and what are you seeing as a difference from the time you started applying these?
Right. So I had been exploring how I think, and how my thinking makes an impact on the team, or in the personal life. And so I think the thinking changed from what to think to how to think, right? And again, what the discussion you and I had yesterday, we need to be changing our strategy about being having specific goals and say, okay, this and this, to how am I probably going to achieve this, and based on that, will I end up taking a different path, right? So it gives you a little bit more openness when you start to think, how am I going to achieve this, and while doing that, will I see some hurdles? And so then now, do I have another choice, right? Which, if I were to be stuck with, let's say I come up with 5 goals in my personal life or professional life, I would be more focusing on, okay, this, and then maybe that doesn't work, I jump onto the another one, right? Some priorities come in, and then you keep jumping and nothing gets done, right? So if I think a little bit more holistically and say, attach your what to the how, probably you'll gain a little bit more information, little bit more meaning to those goals, and then you can course correct. So kind of getting away from what to think to how to think.
And when you discovered this, right, from what to how, and the way you put it is, okay, if I have n number of goals, then I kind of prioritize which one to go for, and then how to go about it, right? So,
Right.
And how to probably embrace the thought pattern you have,
Right.
right, and evolve that.
Right.
So what difference did it make to you?
Right. So I'll give you a very excellent example, and again, something which we both are involved in, right? So the first time I learned the Scrum Master program, right, the experimental learning program, I was like, okay, I am interested, right? So I'm going to make that happen. But when I saw that it's going to be a 6 months program, I was like, okay, now I know what I have to do. But now the bigger challenge is, how am I going to make time to do that when I already know that I have like 100 things happening, right? So it starts with your, inclination about willing to do something, and then you figuring out, okay, is there any tweaks which I can do to still make time? And it starts with that conversation, hey Nivarti, I'm interested, and this is what I bring to the table, so that then the team is on board and they are there to support you if the timings doesn't work, for example, right? Or when you know that you are not going to be available for certain time point of time, how you kind of partner with other team members in your team, so that you check with them offline, and then kind of still be engaged in the program, right? So there can be so many strategies. So if you think about, like, how am I going to do it? I'm going to have my allies. I'm going to be in connect with the leader of the program. I'm going to then also take help from the mentors. And, I figure that path out, then the what part just sorts itself out, right? So that was an excellent example. And, we are still evolving. I think we have 2 more months to go. And I'm still figuring out, okay, how, 2 more months, 4 are done. And, what else can I do to make life easy and still, either give back to the community and then learn from the program, right? So it's kind of a, we learned the other day, right? Empirical planning. So I'm somewhere in the middle doing the experimental loop, defining and then course correcting. So I was able to link all these things together, the learnings from the book, the learnings from the program, and then how to course correct and then think from a different perspective.
Beautiful. I think, another point that comes up for me is, whenever, even during the transformation, or whenever somebody talks about change, right, and we talk about mindset a lot.
Yes.
And we say change mindset. So what needs to change for someone to really have that acceptance of continuous change happening? And in today's world, things change continuously, right? So change is
Yeah.
the new norm, is what we used to say, and possibly now disruption is the new normal,
Yes.
because I recently read one of the McKinsey's articles. It says the disruption cycle is coming down drastically. So number
Mm-hmm.
of disruptions happening is quite frequent as compared to how it used to happen a decade earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
from that point of view, if someone has to be continuously adapting and continuously be able to pivot themselves, I think
Mm-hmm.
what needs to change, and we advocate this a lot, is don't think about why I should not be doing or why I should not be changing,
Exactly.
rather than how should I change or
Right.
how can I change, right? So,
Right.
what can I do to change and adapt to what is changing, rather than thinking about being in that victim state where why this change is happening
Right.
only to me, and we always relate to ourselves, but it's not only to me or only to you, it's happening to everybody almost across the globe, right? So from that point of view, why should I change? If
Right.
we start changing that statement the way you said, how can I change,
Right.
right? So probably that's a big shift in mindset itself.
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
So what else has changed for you? You talked about so much. So
Yeah.
any other thought that comes, what how this book has influenced with your personal or professional life?
Yeah, yeah. I think Mike talked about two more things I think will be relevant to our discussion and kind of going in the link, right? He also talked about making a difference where it'll count the most, right? Making a difference where it counts the most. So we we all make differences in everybody's life, right? It can be smaller, it can be bigger, but let's say you are in a time crunch, right? And you have to make one decision which you think will impact the team overall. Then you had a choice to make a difference to probably bring your credit in front, and so you are impacting now by making the decision, you are impacting yourself and your goals, right? So if you had that choice, how would you do that, right? And so that was a really another eye opener, right? That we all want to make an impact, and again we are all finding our purpose and making our life meaningful and people around us, but how to also start to think that what can I do which will impact the community overall, again whether we are doing volunteering to certain level. And he also put another thought in mind, and it was like everybody has values, right? And so how can you differentiate yourself and those values, and how can you give it to the world, right? So for example, I am a very big advocate of women empowerment, right? There are so many other women probably whose priorities are a little different, right? But if somebody is standing by certain things, right, and you have very emotional attachment to that, what can you do for the community and bring that perspective up front, right? Maybe because you are so passionate about that, you are so emotionally attached to that, maybe you will make a bigger impact rather than somebody who probably not that passionate, but yes, they can talk about it and bring the change. So attaching your emotion and passion, and then making yourself available based on the values you hold by, and bringing the teams along, bringing the community along. I just gave an example of women empowerment for myself. It's close, that topic is very close to my heart. So yeah, so that was another learning for me, Nivarti.
Mm. So how you align your values and passion to
Right.
your life, right? And how
Right.
you live by them.
Right.
Great point. And you said there are five, so I think there is one more which you can talk about from the book.
Yeah, yeah. So he also talked about, as part of being excellent, right? So once you have made the hard choice, how can you be comfortable with the discomfort, right? So no choice, like there's no choice of, do you want to be comfortable or do you want to be uh, discomfort, you are living in a discomfort. But we all know that the situations are not always going to be aligned the way we foresee them, right, as per our expectations. So how are you going to live with the situation you are in, right? Corporate example, right? You are working in a team, and then let's say the team members are going in different directions, and the easy way out for you to be out of the team would be like, hey, you know what, this environment is not healthy, let me just form another team, work for another team. But that's an easy choice, right? And so when he talks about making a hard choice, the hard choice would be, how can you make yourself and the team comfortable in this discomfort, right? And thinking that this discomfort probably would be short lived, right? So always having that positive perspective in mind, and then I'm going to align that to think what, going away from what, there's a discomfort, this is the what, and moving to how. Okay, how can I make the situation comfortable, right? So that alignment of being excellent, making hard choices, and then living with the discomfort, and then change your mindset, how you think, kind of aligned like a river, like it starts flowing and then it going deep down.
Great, and the way you are putting it, it's very nice in the flow of the whole journey of the book itself. How you start from where you are, and then how you are ending up to how you need to be comfortable with the organizational environment, and how you navigate then the organizational dynamics basically, right? And still be excelling there. And of course, again, in the context of organization also, how you can still showcase your passion, live by your values within the organizational system.
Right.
Great points, Balwinder. So as a last thought, if why do you think someone should read this book from their point of view? We heard so much from your perspective, so why do you think you would advocate, or you would recommend this book to someone?
Yeah. So I think we are in those times, pandemic times, where there is so much uncertainty, right, in our environment, right? Whether it is the job market, whether it is the coming back to office, right? Or it is just generally, at personal level, everybody just having that feeling of, how to take care of your dear ones who may not be near you, right? And how to make those connections, and now how to be still connected with them and yet give them that privacy, right? So there's so much going on in everybody's mind, right, in this, specifically in this pandemic environment. And so it kind of relates it very beautifully, the way the author worked in an environment where he was away from his family for years together, not knowing how the next day would look like, and yet motivating himself and the team to excel. And then at the same time, sometimes going by the decisions the team is making, and those were the life and death situations, right? And we are not even talking about our decisions which we make in our professional lives, right? So just there's so much to learn from those situations where you are away from your family. And he talked about, he sent a letter, every time he would feel that maybe he'll not see another day, or he thought that this is a critical mission, he sent a letter home and said, I really love you, and I'm thinking about you, and it's just that I'm in this situation which I am in, that I'm not being with you, right? So kind of always, I think that's a connection, human connection, right? We all need to do and check in with our colleagues and friends, how they are doing, and it's so very difficult when we are working in work from home situation. You are near to your family probably too much, but then those connections in their environment or the wider scale of friend circle is kind of fading, right? So how to bring that balance again, and how to check in with the people you love, and that friendship circles, and kind of still being a connection. I think it'll be a great read to like learn and then apply that in this uncertain environment situations.
Okay, wonderful, Balwinder. Again, as always, it's really great to have you and talk about the book. I think excellent, insights that have come from you overall, not just in terms of what you have learned from the book, but it's nice to see how you have applied those learnings as well and continue to apply. So for everyone, sorry, so who are looking at this probably at a later time, if you want to watch more book reviews, you can always look at our YouTube channel. And you can find more book reviews therein. Sandeep, thanks for joining, and Sandeep is saying it's very nicely put overall. So for those who are watching it at a later time, please do subscribe to the channel, and you can always get over there to look at more book reviews and also lots of videos on transformation and leadership. So with that said, thanks a lot, Balwinder, for your time and sharing of your experience again, and look forward to collaborating with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks Nivarti. And I think every person who's connected with you, they just want another one opportunity to talk to you, to learn. And so it's always a mutual benefit, and you always make time for people and for their missions, right? Anybody who needs help to be there. So yeah, thanks for everything you do for the community, Nivarti.
Thank you.